Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. I am Luke Levitsky.
And I'm Doug Cannon.
On this week's show, we prepare you for the postseason with a look at every playoff team, including the Blues, who aren't even really the Blues anymore.
And, of course, Luke copied every one of my picks except New York and Philly. We'll also touch on some of the key news and notes from around the league.
That's a lie. All that and more. Let's drop the puck on episode 36. We are here alongside Doug Cannon. I am Luke Levitsky. Doug, the regular season. Yes, both of us are here.
We are alongside Doug Cannon, is what you said.
We are here. Oh, it's going to be that kind of show, okay? The playoffs are here. The regular season is over. I'm sad because we have no more regular season hockey, but yet I'm excited because we have playoff hockey. I'm just
you stole my thunder. I was
wide range of emotions.
I was feeling the same way. I'm like totally conflicted. I'm sad that the regular season's over, but I'm ecstatic that the playoffs are about to begin.
This is where it gets good too. Like even people that don't watch hockey realize that the NHL playoffs are definitely where it's at, and I'm already kind of in a angry mood because
that's not good.
As we've said on the show before, we each kind of follow two teams.
Right. I follow Toronto.
Okay, and I follow Pittsburgh. But we also both follow the Coyotes.
Correct.
Well, Phoenix is out.
That's not good.
So I already have to deal with the fact that one of the teams that I pull for, and they don't play each other, so it's okay. Normally I would say you can't pull for two teams in one sport, but in hockey it's okay because it's hockey.
Say that to my son. He's a Flyer Red Wing fan. I'm like, well, dude, how do you root for one? You can't root for two.
Well, obviously you get rid of the Flyers. I mean, that's the easy solution to that.
And the Red Wings. Anyways.
Yeah. So I already have one team out, and I don't even know what to think about Pittsburgh.
I'm still crying.
We can get to your situation later on. All right, but it is episode 36, and that brings us to the
silly game.
It's not a silly game. It is the Emmy Award-winning game.
Okay.
That does not yet have a name.
Nope, it does not have a name.
Who's your best 36 of all time, Doug?
I'm going with Matthew Barnaby.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Bobby Clarke. Wore it for a year.
1 year.
Yeah. You did
1
this.
year.
You corrupted the game with your Dominic Hasek wore like number 18 in junior.
Bobby Clarke's number was 16.
That's true. So if I can't go with him, I'm actually going to go with UC Jokinen, who has been deceptively good. And I can't remember the last time we did a current player as the best player.
But Matthew Barnaby, 18 years, man, in the NHL. 18 years steady. You say his name. What do you think?
Instigator,
but what team comes to your mind when I say Matthew Barnaby?
A bunch. Buffalo, Pittsburgh.
Buffalo, right.
Okay.
Yeah, well, obviously Pittsburgh, you're a Pittsburgh fan, but I automatically think Sabres when I hear his name.
Yeah, he's good. He's solid.
Well, he's not an Ovechkin or anybody, but I mean 18 years. Anybody can play in the NHL for 18 years.
Yeah, that's true.
He didn't always wear 36. When he was with Colorado, he wore 38, and when he finished his career with Dallas, he wore 77.
Did you call him before the show? He wore number 77?
When he finished his career with the Dallas Stars, yes.
Did he think he was Ray Bourque? So anyway.
But my vote's for Matthew Barnaby because anybody that can play in the NHL for 18 years is doing something right.
Yeah, that I will completely agree with, and we should say as we always say we're going to say on the show, and then we never do. We're on iTunes, TuneIn, YouTube, Google Plus, and SoundCloud. Okay.
You can find us everywhere on the internet.
We are coming out of your toaster.
In fact, I got a call from the NSA. They found us.
Wow. Did they like us?
They loved it.
They're listening all the time?
All the time. They're going, we want hockey news. We tapped the hockey podcast.
Or maybe they're just listening all the time. Playoffs this year?
Scary. Yep.
It's wide open. I don't know your opinion on any of these, actually. I don't even know if you've noticed the playoffs are going on without Toronto in them. But looking at each series, and we're going to get into them.
I pulled my head out, and now I've paid attention, yes.
None of these, to me, and we'll do predictions and everything, I'm sure they were, I don't even know. Will there be a first-round sweep? I mean, all of these series, to me, are competitive.
Well, let's start with the Eastern Conference.
Okay.
And we'll determine between you and I if there will be a sweep anywhere in the East.
And I'm going to do the angle that I want to take on this that you're going to make fun of me for taking.
Always.
But I want to find the wild card player in each series. And it can't just be the goalie. I'll do it myself. I don't need you here for this podcast. Your mic's been turned off.
All right.
Let's start. Boston, Detroit.
That is going to go 5.
Really?
I give Detroit 1 game.
Oh, okay. Hold on. So just a recap of the playoffs. It's different this year in case you haven't been watching until the playoffs.
Yeah, we should actually touch on that.
So it's 4 divisions this year. Mm-hmm. It is second versus third in each division. It is first from each division playing one of the 2 wild cards, which
First
could
place
be
the 8th and second place the 7th.
So that could be between divisions, but the second and third is. And actually, the way it worked out this year, it matched up pretty well across the board, except for one series in the West, and we'll get to that in a minute. But Boston, Detroit, you think the Bruins win it in 5?
Yeah, I don't think it's a sweep.
Well, obviously, I mean it's best of 7, not best of 9.
But I think that they can take Detroit in 5.
I think
because I truly believe, even though Detroit put a push at the end, they're not the team that everybody thinks they are.
Well, I have 2 ways of looking at this. You have the Bruins, who, if I had to pick a Stanley Cup champ right now, that it's the Bruins.
Right.
I mean, and that could change, but right now it's Boston. Yet, you never want to play Detroit in the first round because they always get out of the first round.
Not this year.
Well, obviously you don't feel that way.
Well, I didn't think they were even going to make the playoffs.
Well, yeah,
so,
you've already been wrong about Detroit. Why am I listening to you?
Right.
To me, the wild card player, Henrik Zetterberg.
Really? You think you call him a wild card player?
Yeah, because he's ruled out of the first 2 and may not play at all. And if he doesn't play at all, I don't think Detroit has as much of a chance.
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean he's a key cog to that Red Wing team.
So thanks for that. First of all, that's breaking news. And
they call me Tips.
I'll go Bruins in 6. I respect Detroit enough that I think they take a couple games, but. It's weird. You think Detroit and you say 23 straight years in the playoffs, that's the experienced team. Who can match that experience? None of these guys were on the team 23 years ago.
Well, here's my philosophy. I think that because Detroit didn't have a really good season, Boston's had a phenomenal season, I think it's really easy to look past a team like Detroit, and I think that's what's going to happen in Game 1. I think Detroit might take Game 1.
Oh, and you think Boston comes back with 4 straight?
Correct.
Worth pointing out, Detroit won the season series 3-1. I know every time I throw this stat out, you're going to say that's the regular season, which is true. But they did win 3 out of 4.
Yeah, right.
So they can beat Boston, and they are, Zetterberg aside, they are a lot healthier than they were 2 weeks ago.
They are getting healthier, yes.
And the difference between Detroit and some other teams is when their star players were out, the guys that filled in got better. And so now they're getting Datsuk back, but he's out there with Gustav Nyquist and Thomas Jerko, or they've got more depth than I think people think.
Yeah, I think especially a guy like Nyquist, he's a lot more talented than people think he is.
So Bruins in 5, man. No, that's wrong. Bruins in 6. I almost went Bruins in 7.
Wow.
Tampa Bay, Montreal.
This is going to be a battle.
Yeah, this
is going to be a battle. I think Montreal takes this in 7.
Montreal, I have Montreal in 6. 11-1 odds to come out of the East, which I don't think Montreal is going to come out of the East.
No.
But they could.
I think Montreal is going to make a push for it because what we're saying right now is that Montreal is going to face Boston, and I don't know if Montreal can get past Boston.
Yeah, that's fair, but the Canadians do have that combination of scorers and a good goaltender. And
yeah, well, Boston has good goaltending, good defense, and good scorers.
If we're going to measure everybody against Boston, we're not going to have much of a show. I don't know. The Canadians, just though, I mean, to be 11-1, that's essentially an underdog. I mean, they have the Bruins and the Penguins at the top of the East, and everybody else. And I think Montreal's in its own group.
And I've been saying it for a long time that I was a big fan of Montreal. You know, I think
sounds like it.
Well, I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. You know, I grew up in Toronto, but I think Montreal is kind of a sleeper team that people have looked past. And there's a lot of talent there, and I think it starts with the goaltending.
Well, they're the only Canadian team left. Tampa Bay will not have Ben Bishop. He was a Vezina candidate, and he's out for the year. So
that was a blow.
Help.
That does not help.
Montreal probably won't have Alex Galchenyuk at least early. So my wild card players, eventually you're going to come over to this side and play this game. Andre Palat, Tyler Johnson, 2 rookies for Tampa Bay that have stepped up big. Palat, like out of nowhere, won Rookie of the Month the last 2 months. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year because Nathan McKinnon's insane, but had a pretty good year.
We will see.
Okay. That's what's known in the business as a teaser. Pittsburgh, Columbus. Oh, Tampa Bay won the season series. They were 3-1 against Montreal. Pittsburgh, Columbus.
Yeah, even though Tampa Bay, I think that Montreal will put up a fight and take it in 7.
Well, Tampa Bay's not the same team now. I mean,
no, especially without Bishop.
Well, they don't have St. Louis or Bishop,
right?
From what they had all year. I think Montreal is going to surprise some people that, at least out here west, haven't really seen them.
Let me ask you a question too. Do you really think Stamkos is 100%?
I don't, but I still think he's better than 95% of the league, not even being 100%.
Yeah, but still, I mean, guy like that, you want him 100. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take him at 95, but you want him 100. I don't know if he's even going to make an impact.
Well, if he doesn't make an impact, they're screwed.
Yes.
I do think he'll make an impact. Look, I mean, that series could go either way. I do think that's Montreal's, and they're the road team, but I think that's theirs to take. Pittsburgh, Columbus, the Penguins were 5-0 against the Blue Jackets this season. As a Penguins follower, I was looking at two things. They didn't want to play Detroit for the reasons I just outlined. You just don't want to play them in the first round. I didn't want to play Philadelphia because they only seem to play well against the Penguins.
Spoken like a true Penguin fan.
Columbus, however, and it's just so much worse if you lose to Philadelphia. If you lose to Columbus, good for Columbus. They've never won a series in the playoffs before.
And they're not going to again.
Probably not, just because they don't seem to match up too well with Pittsburgh.
So who's your X factor in this series?
Marc-Andre Fleury.
Bobrovsky.
Yeah, but see, you're saying Bobrovsky in a good way.
Yes.
I'm saying Fleury in that if he flurries it, then they're just out.
Yeah, I think that if Columbus has any kind of success in this series, it's all on the shoulders of Bobrovsky. I really do. You got what, Johansson?
Yeah, he's had a really good year.
He's had a solid year. But I still think that it sounds silly, but I've always equated NHL playoffs to baseball. Your goaltender is your starting pitcher, and he's got to be on.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's got to be on.
He's your quarterback, too. I mean,
yeah, he's your quarterback if you want to use a football analogy. And it's there's a lot of weight on Bobrovsky's shoulders. I really think that.
This is the problem that Pittsburgh's going to have really in any series they play. The other team's going to have the advantage in net going into the series. They just are. Fleury had a really good regular season. He legitimately was very good. But he's had good regular seasons before. He's won a Stanley Cup before, but he's also taken his own team out of the playoffs. I can think of 3 occasions right off the top of my head.
I don't think Columbus's D is strong enough to shut down the offense that Pittsburgh has. And we saw it when Pittsburgh played Boston last year. I think Pittsburgh will win the series. I think maybe Columbus, because of their goaltending, might eke out 2 wins. So I think it's a 6-game series.
Yeah, I have Penguins in 6-2, and that's a good point because I think people look at any series where the Penguins play a really tough goalie and they say, look what happened against Boston last year. And Tuukka Rask was good in that series, but they couldn't even get to him.
They couldn't get near him.
Columbus, they will get to Bobrovsky.
Yes.
So that'll be interesting. Chris Letang back this week, too, and played and scored.
Yep.
Which is fairly unreal.
So what did you think about the comments after he got hit?
After Letang got hit?
Yeah, little side.
I didn't even see those.
Oh, you didn't?
No.
Oh. Coach Billsma was like, well, the guy just came back from a stroke. It's cheap. And then who'd they play?
Well, they played Philadelphia, so it wouldn't
played
surprise
Philly,
me.
and then Philly's front office is like, well, if he's hurt, he should be playing.
Yeah.
And then
Letang's
Letang's was the best. He was part of the game. And that's exactly right.
He's pretty laid back.
Well, it wasn't even laid back. I mean, I read his comments before he came back, and he was like, look, my family's worried. I'm worried. But the doctors cleared me, and I can play. And I could walk down the street, or I can go jogging and have something bad happen to me. Playing hockey has nothing to do with my condition. I've been cleared by the medical staff. Here I am. And I think it's great for Pittsburgh because, there was a point a couple of weeks ago, you and I were talking about it. It was like this little black cloud that always seems to find Pittsburgh. It's like injury. And we talked at the beginning of the season how healthy they were staying.
Yeah, and then that went right out.
And then all of a sudden that just stopped.
That little black cloud found a different team. We'll get to them in a second. Okay. But the Penguins are relatively healthy. Aside from the guys that we knew were out for the year, like Pascal Dupuis, it seems like they'll get Malkin back for Game 1. Columbus won't have Nathan Horton, it looks like, for the whole series.
No, he's done.
So.
What a bust that pickup was.
Well, the guy just can't stay healthy. When he was out there on the ice for them, he was fine.
He was fine.
Stay healthy.
But you have to be on the ice to do something.
That is true. We should also point out Columbus, Detroit, both in the Western Conference last year. So 10 teams from the West last year are in this year's playoffs, just kind of reinforcing how strong the West has been.
But we're not West biased.
No,
anyways.
not at all. Rangers, Flyers, they split the season series at 2 apiece. This is really a series that
This is the series I want to watch.
Really?
Yeah.
This had to happen because these were the 2 teams that underachieved to start the year, and they've been on fire lately.
My oldest son's a midget, and we were actually talking about the playoffs. He had a workout today at the rink, and this is the series we want to sit down and watch. This is going to be a 7-game series.
Yeah.
And it's going to be nose to nose, toe to toe. It's going to have everything that you want it to have. It's going to be end-to-end hockey. It's going to be physical. It's going to be mean. It's just going to be in-your-face hockey, and I can't wait.
New York and Philadelphia, just in general, don't like each other very much.
And what two better cities to put up against each other? I mean, New York fans, Philly fans. I mean, you're talking to me. It's going to be fun. This is going to be a fun series to watch.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That would be a good series to go to a game.
Oh, I would love to go to one of these games. I don't care if it's at Wells Fargo or if it's at Madison Square Gardens. I would wear just a neutral color, and I would just watch the Philly fans egg on the New York fans and New York fans egg on the Philly fans, and I'd be the most entertained individual. Plus, I'd get to watch the game.
Yeah, that would be good. Just don't dress up like Santa Claus if you're in Philadelphia.
Yeah, if you're in Philly, don't dress as Santa Claus because you'll get booed.
Yeah, don't dress up as anything if you're in Philadelphia. Martin St. Louis is my wild card in this because the Rangers lost their captain mid-season. And look, Henrik Lundqvist, I mean, I go with the goalie in every series, but St. Louis to me is the wild card because he's kind of the X factor. I mean, you don't know what you're going to get from him. If he is Martin St. Louis like we've seen in the past, I think the Rangers can win, but I'm going to go with the Flyers in 7.
Ooh.
Only because really I don't like them, and teams I don't like win.
I'm going Rangers in 7 because of goaltending. But I think Wayne Simmons is my guy in this series.
What a year he had. 29 goals.
Yeah.
For a guy that's not...
And you know me, and you've known me long enough, I've always been a fan of his.
You have. And it's not because he scores. I mean,
I just love the way he plays.
Yeah. That's a real nice asset for Philadelphia, and that's a team that we talked at length at the start of the year, how they were underachieving. But I think to our credit, we both said they're going to be a playoff team, and to get there, they're going to have to be on a roll, which is exactly what happened.
Right.
So... That's your 4 series from the East. I assume you're going to write all these predictions down, and then we will hear from them again if we're wrong.
But I didn't.
Well, I've got them right here. I don't have yours.
You didn't write them down?
No, I just figured you had.
I'm going to now.
You have the Maple Leafs winning each series.
And I don't have to just write in any of them.
Well, there you go.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast. Feel free to email comments or questions to the show at our email address, thehockeypodcast@gmail.com.
Segment 2, Western Conference. Doug, I'm going to give you...
Look at that. We went from the East to the West in a blink of an eye.
Just transcontinental, just like that. You had, 2 weeks ago, you said you were, quote, smelling upset.
Right.
You had Colorado over Chicago.
And when they were 2 and 3.
You're wrong, because they're not even going to play each other.
But they're better than that. They're 1 now.
Well, so clearly it wasn't even an upset.
So it was an upset.
Let's start with Colorado, Minnesota. How did you justify that as you being right? You just threw all logic out the window.
That's the only way to do it.
Doug's rules for winning an argument. Just start speaking a
no
different
logic,
language, hitting your head.
Oh, parlez-vous français?
It's not going to get you anywhere over here. Colorado, Minnesota. The Avalanche won the regular season series. They were a 4-0-1 against the Wild. I think before we even get into the series, again, have to point out the amazing turnaround Colorado. They had the first pick in the draft last year, and now they win the Central Division, which was the toughest division in hockey.
Okay, well, this series hurts my brain because I keep looking at it from all 6 sides. That's 3-dimensional, by the way. And then I heard Don Maloney today address the media, and he mentioned the game against Minnesota Phoenix, which Minnesota won.
Yeah, that kind of influenced my pick here too, but go ahead.
And he said, and I'm paraphrasing, it was the turning point for both Minnesota and Phoenix.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was the wrong way for Phoenix, but
yeah, that whole scenario didn't make me too happy reliving that. But
I thought it was an interesting point by Mr. Maloney, and Minnesota's got a lot of power, but I don't know. I just think that I think Minnesota's Achilles heel in the series is goaltending.
Yeah, it is. And that's not to say Minnesota can't win. I have Colorado in 7. I think Minnesota really pushes it.
And I think Colorado takes it in 6.
Okay.
Just because
of the goaltending.
Because of the goaltending.
Varlamov has been amazing all year. He might win the Vezina. And Minnesota, it's not their fault. I mean, they've had injuries. They've had just unfortunate circumstances, but they've had to juggle goalies around all season.
They've had 4 number 1 goalies this season.
So to consider then what they've done in the season they've had, it's remarkable.
Correct.
And they are dangerous. I mean, they have the star power in guys like Parise and Ryan Suter. But when you get to this level and you're looking at trying to take down the Central Division champs, who don't have any experience really,
right?
But they do have the edge in goaltending. They don't have Matt Duchene, which makes my X factor Nathan McKinnon. I think he's going to have to step up for Colorado. And by step up, I mean just do what he did in the regular season as a rookie in the playoffs.
Well, I don't think he has to change his game. And I think a lot of what Colorado has going for itself, as well as, they got solid goaltending, they got some pretty talented kids on that team, is that they are kids.
Yeah, they don't know any better.
They don't know any better. Hello, Mrs. Beaver. Get your voice back there, big boy.
You all right over there?
Yeah, just doing a little Luke imitation.
It sounds worse than I do.
I'm here.
Hey, I knew my voice would change eventually, and here we are, okay? Right in the
middle of the podcast.
Yeah. So we both have Colorado coming out of there, but it seems almost foolish to discount Minnesota.
It does, but I just think that the kids are going to do it.
Yeah, I want to see how they approach it. Because you can go into this series and you can say it's Colorado, the turnaround we just talked about. They have nothing to lose, kind of big picture. I mean, this was kind of they're playing with house money this year.
But look at who the coach is.
Yeah, exactly. Look who the coach is, and look where they finished. I mean, you win your division, you do have something to lose at that point.
Right.
You expect to win your first round.
And Patrick
series.
Roy doesn't like to lose.
No, he doesn't tolerate it very well.
Mm-mm.
Last time I saw him angry, he was trying to walk through a wall of glass to get to Bruce Boudreau. St. Louis, Chicago.
Wow.
The Blues have dropped 6 in a row, I believe. It's a great way to go into the playoffs.
Yeah, and Chicago has amazingly, for their first game, Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane back in the lineup.
Yeah.
Funny how that happened.
Yeah. Look how things are just falling into place.
Oh, look,
Chicago.
I'm healthy. I'm ready.
Oh, the playoffs are starting? You know what? I do feel better now that you mention it. Yeah, St. Louis dropped 6 in a row to close out the season. None of them were even by a goal. They were all by multiple goals. That's not great. And there were some.
Well, they're
hurt. I mean, they're
hurt. They're
destroyed.
banged up.
This is the team that got the black cloud that was following Pittsburgh around for a while.
Right. Do you think they can come out from underneath it?
Not against Chicago.
No.
This series could be bad. And yet, it's the one I want to watch the most because if St. Louis can get healthy, I mean, this could end up being the best series. This one has the biggest range of outcomes to me.
Well, unless St. Louis pulls a magic rabbit and gets healthy quick, I think this is done in 6.
They have Ryan Miller, who has to be the X factor. I mean, this is a guy that can win you games by himself. He hasn't been doing it lately. You figure St. Louis will get some of their guys back, but right now Tarasenko's definitely out. David Backes, Vladimir Sobotka, TJ Oshie, Patrick Berglund, Brendan Morrow, all questionable. I mean,
that's a heavy hill. That's a steep slope to climb. And
that's all your forwards.
And I just mentioned that Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane are magically back for the start of the playoffs. And I think Chicago takes it in 6.
Because you put yourself in a situation and where you're not even at full strength. You're trying to get healthy in the middle of the playoffs, which is never good.
Never good.
You just had a meltdown. I know it was because of the injuries, essentially, but you did just lose 6 in a row and throw away the number 1 seed overall in the NHL. I mean, 2 weeks ago, they were one of the best teams in the whole league. And then to have all that coupled with the fact that you're playing Chicago, who just won the Stanley Cup.
Well, that's right. I mean, St. Louis and Anaheim were in a heated battle for number 1 overall in the Western Conference.
Yeah. And St. Louis, no.
And that black cloud kind of rained on that parade.
So I have Chicago in 6.
Yeah. I think that is, if I was a betting man, that's where I would put my money.
But 2 weeks ago, if you told me that was a first-round series, I would say far and away that is the best first-round series. This seemed like it was going to be the Blues' year.
It's kind of seemed like that the last 3 years.
Well, yeah.
Just to be honest here.
Yeah, that's true. And just to throw in the odds again, Chicago and St. Louis are the 2 favorites to come out of the West, which is interesting since they're playing each other in the first round.
Well, that's not going to happen.
Nope, it's not. Well, there's never going to be 2 teams coming out of the West. Anaheim, Dallas. The Ducks actually lost the season
series. You
series.
didn't tell me who your X Factors was.
Ryan Miller.
Oh, you said Ryan
Miller. I did say Ryan Miller.
You did.
I didn't tell you the season series was 3-2 St. Louis, but you never asked. Dallas.
You always work a way in. You always get it in there.
Dallas. That's because I'm a
segue king.
I'm a trained professional. Dallas won the season series over Anaheim, 2-1. The Ducks.
Really, you're going to put your hat on that?
I'm not going to put my hat on that. The Ducks rebounded
I'll
really well.
put my hat on my head, but anyways.
Well, that's good for you. Here's. I don't even know how to go on after that. As I told you earlier in the year, the Ducks I thought were peaking too early, and then they just went into a complete tailspin. But they've pulled back out of it. And the listeners cannot see what you're doing. Well, maybe we should point out that we're recording this podcast at night, and Doug just loses his mind when we record podcasts at night.
But I've been a big Anaheim proponent all along.
You have, and this is going to work in your favor then. Anaheim, to close out the season, won 4 straight, 7 of their last 9, went 9-1 in their last 12 to take the Pacific Division back from San Jose, who was trying to take it from them. I'm not going to go against Anaheim, but I absolutely think Dallas could win the series. I'm going to go Ducks in 7 because they've earned that. And if they get past this round, they might win the Stanley Cup. But Dallas, they've got star power in Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, and that could make things interesting.
I disagree.
Okay.
I'm going Anaheim in 6.
Okay.
I think Anaheim could probably do it in less than 6.
They could because they have the Teemu factor too.
But I think that I'm saying 6 because Dallas has been really hot lately, and they're finding ways to win. And to get to where Dallas got, to take that 8th seed away from Phoenix, they played some pretty good hockey. And they have a very seasoned coach on the bench. And if Lettinen and Thomas can do what they need to do, I mean, those aren't 2 horrible goalies there. I mean, you got Tim Thomas, who's a starter, who's kind of the backup, and you got Lettinen. I think that they could push, but I think eventually Anaheim's taking it in 6.
The one concern I have with Anaheim is that Jonas Hiller goes into these playoffs having given up 11 goals in his last 3 games, which is, I'm not a math major, but that's not great. He's 0-2-1 in his last 3. 2 of those games were against Edmonton. Another one was against Nashville. Played great down the stretch. We'll get to them later on because they played so great they decided to let their coach go. But
the forwards on Anaheim. I mean, the thing that Anaheim brings to me is not only do they have scoring power,
they're physical.
They are a big team, physically big, and they play physical.
That's good. I mean, to be physical and then also to play physical.
No, but I mean, they have the physical prowess before they even play. I mean, you watch Getzlaf walk by you and go, I don't want to face him.
Yeah, and, you can – I don't know how real this is, but –
even Perry, man. I mean, he's a lot bigger than I ever thought he was.
Yeah, he's deceptively big.
And I'm like, phew.
Dallas, to a certain extent, everybody wants to win when they get here. But to me, when you're trying to pick teams that can win in a playoff series, in a best-of-7 series, the 2 things I look at are which team has different ways they can win a series. And we just kind of pointed out, if Dallas is going to win, Seguin and Ben have to go off. They might, but that's the only way they can win, really. Anaheim could win with physicality. They could win with scoring. The other thing is who wants it more? And I think when you really break it down to that level, Dallas worked hard to get here. This is their first playoff appearance in 6 years. If they go out, they're not going to be destroyed emotionally. Whereas Anaheim is trying to win a cup this year.
They're trying to win a cup, and when I say that, Anaheim plays physical and they have the physical attributes because their players are big and strong, do not underestimate the skill that Anaheim has. I've watched a lot of Anaheim games, and these boys can play hockey. And the one thing I love is the way they rush into the offensive zone. I love their entry into the offensive zone, and they make it look so easy. And as a youth hockey coach, they're doing everything I'm trying to teach. And my teenage guys, I'm supposed to. Where am I going?
You might need to get a new team if they sound like that.
Well, yeah.
Anaheim, if they're playing their game this series, they might not even need their goalie.
True. But the skill set on Anaheim is so high. And then you add skill and the physical aspect, that they can do both. You know, some teams will just grind you because they're grinders.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's a buddy of mine who uses a phrase, and it's called will over skill.
Okay. Anything that rhymes, I'm in.
Which you're kind of talking about with Dallas, right? They're using their will because they're hungry for it and they want it more. You know, that will over skill. Well, Anaheim's got that plus the skill.
Yeah, I just there's so many different ways Anaheim can pull this off. There's not even any sort of guarantee that Ray Whitney will be there in Game 1 for the Stars, which is big for them.
That's big for them, man. I mean, he's such a constant.
Constance?
He's really constant.
Tyler Seguin is my X factor because I still marvel at the fact that Dallas was able to pry him away from Boston. Look, the Bruins are poised to win another cup. They don't need Tyler Seguin. They got players back. It's not like they gave Dallas Tyler Seguin.
Yeah. What's that guy's name? Jerome?
But you don't get a lot of players like that in a trade. You rarely, if you're going to get a Tyler Seguin, it's because you drafted him or you've waited till he's maybe to the point where you're paying him so much as a free agent that is it even worth it? They got a guy from Boston that was number 2 overall pick just a couple years ago, and he went out and put up 35 goals this year.
Right.
So he's going to have to be huge. And the more I think about this, the more I think that it might even be Anaheim in less than 7. But that's going to be a fun series to watch. We haven't disagreed on anything other than Rangers Flyers.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
This is horrible. All right, well,
here we go.
We might disagree on this one.
Yeah, we might.
San Jose, LA, it's the final series. LA won the season series. They won 3 out of 5. There was a lot of overtime
blah, blah,
shootouts. Wow. That's my hard work just tossed out the window. My prediction here is I have no idea.
Yeah, this is the other one that hurts my brain.
It's a good hate series.
This is kind of the West version of New York Philly.
Without the accents.
Without the, yeah. Hey, man.
That could be either one of them.
Let's play some hockey, brah.
I don't know why I just
Let's play some hockey, brah.
Turned into Robin Williams there for a second. Anyway, Sharks, you got the Northern California vibe. You got LA, the Southern California
where's
vibe.
my car?
They hate each other just because of that. There's that just constant rivalry. Dodgers, Giants. Somehow that gets worked in here too.
Northern California, Southern Cal, no-Cal, SoCal.
Two kind of different styles of play, really. I mean, they're both physical.
Well, I mean, San Jose, yeah, they're both physical teams. Yeah, I have to agree.
I'll put this out there right now. San Jose, take the goalie out of the equation for a second. This is the best San Jose team I've seen in 5 years.
Okay.
I think the X factor is Thomas Hertl, who's back from a devastating injury he suffered.
Hertl.
You okay? It's like doing a show with a 4-year-old who was injured by Dustin Brown earlier this year.
It's fun.
What's fun for
4-year-olds?
This podcast has been approved for 4-year-olds. We're like the Teletubbies of hockey podcasts.
Oh, I don't like those guys. They scare me.
They're terrifying. Thomas Hertl, as I try to make this point again, may have been Rookie of the Year this year had he stayed healthy all season. And again, I just go back to the fact that he was injured by Dustin Brown, whether you think it was an accident or not. Cost him, 45, 50 games from his rookie season. He is back, and San Jose has so much firepower. I'm going to go Sharks in 7. I'm going to do it. LA is one of those teams you never pick against in the first round. I don't care. You know why? There's nothing on the line here, so I'm going Sharks.
There is a lot on the line.
Nothing for me in terms of my prediction.
Because everybody's saying that this is it for the Sharks this year. There's going to be some wholesale changes.
I don't think it is.
Those are going to be changes.
But they signed all the key pieces they had to sign. Like a year ago, everybody was saying 2014 could be it for the Sharks because they're going to have to lose Thornton or Marlowe, or how are they going to sign Pavelski and Couture? Well, the cap goes up, they get everybody re-signed, and they add Hertl. And Pavelski has 41 goals this year.
Yeah, he's kind of on a... But I was more referring to coach.
Oh, Todd McClellan. Okay. Yeah,
the talk is like this is his last opportunity to get over that hump. The Sharks are kind of like the Red Wings. They always find a way to get to the playoffs. Red Wings obviously have gone a little deeper, but the Sharks just never seem to get over that hump to get deep into the playoffs.
Every year you can make a case that, hey, this is the Sharks' year, and obviously it's never been their year. And so I get why people would be wary of picking them. Are you that high on LA this year, though?
I'm not really high on LA, but I am high on Jonathan Quick.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, that's enough to win you a Stanley Cup, as we saw 2 years ago.
Right, and they've got some savvy vets on that team, and they got a good D as well. They got a strong defense, and they got some scorers on that team. I'm sitting here, and I'm just like, I go, the Sharks could do it. Goaltending can do it for LA. It's just going to be a battle royale. I'm going to go Kings in 7.
I feel like LA is one of those teams that is kind of constructed for the playoffs, and that they don't have a ton of flashy forwards. They've got Anze Kopitar, they've got Marian Gaborik, who's not really as flashy anymore. Jeff Carter's had a great year, and I'm talking myself into LA as we do this, but I'm going to stick with San Jose, partially just because I want to see the Sharks maybe go on a run this
Listen,
year.
I'm not a big Kings fan.
No, you're not.
No, I am not, and I'm not a big Dustin Brown fan by any stretch. I am a Drew Doughty fan, and I am a Jeff Carter fan. But I just think if Jonathan Quick is in the zone, it's going to be really, really hard to beat that team.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I may actually switch here because San Jose doesn't know who their goalie is going to be yet, or they at least haven't announced it. And that's
what I'm
concerning.
saying. That's concerning, right? Going into the playoffs.
So I might go LA. I'm going to go LA in 7.
Okay, LA in 7.
Because you can't, even if San Jose knows who it is, you shouldn't be in a situation where you have to play games and say, is it Antti Niemi, who started, I think, like their last 34 playoff games?
Right.
Or is it Alex Stalock, who's been great this year, but he's also Alex Stalock. He's
Thank
not
you.
playoff tested.
Right.
And so against a team like LA,
it's got to be Niemi. I mean, he's got to be their guy, but I just think that Quick's the better goalie, and I think that LA is going to be the one that comes out of that series.
it's going to be a brutal series.
Oh.
You're tuned into the Hockey Podcast. Follow us on Twitter @HockeyPodcast for even more hockey news.
#do it.
Final segment, news and notes. I'd like to yell directly into Doug's ears. I just
Wow. I don't know why that was so loud in my ear, but it was.
I didn't even know you were reacting to me. I don't know what's going on over there. Well, let's start with Teemu Selanne. We touched on him in the last segment, but this is, of course, his farewell tour. He already went through the Olympics and got a medal.
Got a
It
medal.
was a major reason why they got a medal. He was player of the tournament. I mean, Teemu Selanne, you couldn't script his final season any better.
No.
You really couldn't script his career any better.
Yeah, I just wish he played for Phoenix franchise a little longer.
I would be fine if he was a member of the Coyotes right now. I think every team wouldn't mind having Teemu Selanne right now.
But he was at one point,
Well,
technically.
that's, I guess, you and your technicalities over there. John Sebastian
He was
Giguère
part of the franchise.
was, of course, a member of Anaheim when they won the Stanley Cup. And so Colorado played Anaheim it was the season finale.
Yep.
Teemu Selanne was honorary captain for a day.
Which I thought was awesome.
It was really cool. They've handled the situation really well.
It's a great thing about the sport of hockey. They do those little things.
And everybody likes Teemu. And you got
because he's a great guy.
a standing ovation in L.A. the other night.
That says something.
That does, because L.A.
Southern
doesn't like
California.
anybody.
Yeah, that says something.
Especially a Ducks player. But he and Giguère were teammates after the game on the ice. They kind of like did a victory lap almost. Because Giguère, I don't know how much longer he's going to play, but those are two guys that have had just phenomenal careers. Selanne's it's going to go down as one of the
I just
very
thought it was
best.
cool that Giguère was in that game.
And they started him. Yeah.
So I thought that was classy in itself.
And you got two teams that had already locked up their spots at that point. Two
Yeah.
teams that might play in the Western Conference Finals if everything goes according to chalk.
Well, I saw a piece with Selanne where he basically said, "Look, I'm at the point where I want to enjoy my life." He's got a son that plays bantam hockey over in California. He wants to go watch his son play a little bit more, maybe help out. Doesn't have any experience to bring to the table, but
What does he know about hockey?
What does he know about hockey? But he wants to do the dad things, man. He's in his 40s and he wants to start enjoying life, and you can't fault him for that. Even though selfishly, if I was a Ducks fan, I'm like, just one more year.
But they've been doing that to him for 3 years.
But
he wants to go live in Southern California and just hang out and be Southern California.
He had the perfect season. You already touched on it. He had the perfect season to end his career as a professional player, I thought.
And, even if they just win one series in the playoffs, it's a good way to go out. Obviously, he wants the cup. That's a team with cup potential. But to have the year they've had, they've managed his time really well. Or if it's a back-to-back, generally speaking, he's not playing both games.
If you want to talk about X factors, man, you better keep your eye on number 8.
Yeah, that's very true.
He could hurt you very badly.
He could. And that team's going to rally around him, too. Barry Trotz?
Wow. I did not see it coming. I really didn't.
Didn't really. I don't know if I agree with this.
I kind of agree with it because he's been the only coach that the team's ever seen. He's been there for 15 years, if I'm correct.
Yep. Playoffs 7 times.
But the part that stings for me is like if you're going to make the decision to relieve him of his duties as head coach, don't do it in the year that your number one goalie is out basically for the whole year and he doesn't really have a chance to make the playoffs. And this is a playoff team. I'm sorry. The Predators are a playoff team. Not having Rennie in net hurt them.
Yeah, for 45 games.
45 games.
Nashville closed out the season going 9-1-2 in their last 12 games. So these guys clearly rallied around Barry Trotz. And they also rallied around the fact that, look, how ironic, they had Pecorine in net for what basically their last. They got him back with about 17 games left. He didn't play all of them. But to go on that run late, they beat some very good teams in that stretch. They beat teams fighting for playoff spots. I mean, they beat Washington.
They had people looking over their shoulders.
Yeah, at Nashville. They were coming back. They beat Anaheim. They beat Chicago. They beat Phoenix in that stretch. They beat San Jose. They rallied around him, and if you were going to do this, why not just fire him in the middle of the season?
Yeah.
It was kind of like let's see what you can do. Oh, look, you got him back. Nashville almost made the playoffs.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And then they fire him.
And I mean, like, he's been there for 15 years.
I understand the argument of maybe things are getting stale.
Yes.
And he's a great coach.
But you could have made that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
When you've got the same head coach with the same philosophy for 10 years. But here's the difference. That team makes the playoffs. They don't go deep, but they make the playoffs.
They have missed the playoffs the last 2 years. But last year was such a weird year that, I mean, I don't know what you can really take from that. But I just wonder if it was we need to make it just a change just for the sake of making a change. Although I want to see who you're bringing in before I evaluate
or
this.
the old, we want to go in a different direction.
Well, we
really like you, but we want to go in a different direction.
It's not you, it's us. So I was surprised by that today.
But you know what? There's another guy that's in the playoffs that was kind of in the same boat in Lindy Ruff in Buffalo.
Oh, Trotz will be coaching next year if he wants to.
But do you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
yeah, that's a great analogy, actually. He's just been there so long that you
right.
got to mix it up.
So I think he'll be okay if he wants to. That's the key point. If he's done coaching, he's done coaching. I don't think so.
You know who should be coaching Nashville is, I hesitate to say this, but John Tortorella. That's a roster that's constructed for his style of coaching. Not Vancouver with the Sedin twins, as Trevor Linden pointed out this week when he said, I don't know if we're using them right. Tortorella with Nashville's collection of just that sort of grit and just you're going to grind out every game and you're going to fight for everything. You don't have any superstars. That's a John Tortorella team.
Absolutely.
Brendan Shanahan, now the president of your Toronto Maple Leafs, not mine.
My Toronto Leafs. I'm a Toronto Maple Leaf fan. I grew up watching the Toronto Maple Leafs. Mixed emotions.
Okay. Care to elaborate?
I think Brendan's a great hockey mind.
He is. There's no denying that.
Great hockey player. I think he did really well for the NHL in the capacity that he was hired. But that capacity was all about hockey.
True.
And I heard him today say, well, I'm going to do a lot of listening and a lot of learning. And I'm like, well, you're the new president. Shouldn't you know?
Specifically about the Leafs, right? And that role that he's going to be in.
Well, sure. He's got to learn the organization. He's never worked for the Leafs. So, yes, he has to learn the organization, the structure. And then at some point he's going to go, well, do I leave it the way it is or do I deconstruct it and build it the way I want to build it? But I got a sense where he's like, learning is like on the business side of things. There's a lot to learn, especially an organization as big as the TSE because they own so much. You know, they just don't own the Maple Leafs. You've got the ACC, you got the Raptors.
You've got all of Canada.
You got
own all of Canada?
Yeah, I mean, it's Hockey Town, right? But he's the president of the Leafs, not the organization. But there's a lot of weight on his shoulders now. I don't know if he understands that. And if he was in charge of just the hockey portion of the Leafs, I'd be ecstatic.
Yeah.
But you're mixing in that administrative business end of things. He could fool me. And hopefully he does.
I'm going to miss his passionate readings of why players were suspended. And I hope that he addresses his players, that if he's in contract negotiations.
Because I think he's
Phil
a great
Kessel.
hockey mind. You know,
He is a great hockey mind.
and maybe he can use that and apply it to, you know what, Mark Messier did it.
It's true.
You know, so why can't Brendan Shanahan?
And this is kind of the thing to go out. I mean, Vancouver did this with Trevor Linden too. Here's a guy that everybody knows. We can kind of put a face on the front office of this franchise, and you can say it's for any number of reasons. You can say it's kind of to build some goodwill after. I mean, Toronto collapsed down the stretch. I would make a case that this year's was almost worse than the playoff game last year, just because it was so prolonged. But now maybe Maple Leafs fans will talk about Brendan Shanahan. Vancouver, same thing with Trevor Linden, and Trevor Linden was a fan favorite in Vancouver.
Well, I heard an interview with Jerry Colangelo, who is very well known in the Phoenix area. Built
USA Basketball.
USA Basketball built the Phoenix Suns to what they were. He won a World Series with the Arizona Diamondbacks when he was in charge. He's a very, very smart man, a very, very smart businessman. And he was asked a question about the Suns' ownership and what he thought should happen. And he said, you know, if I want, because the owner of the Suns right now is a banker. He goes, if I wanted to go into the banking industry, I would sit down and talk to the best banking minds in the world. And I would consult them on what to do in the banking world. So if I own a basketball team, I'm going to hire all the greatest basketball minds and tell me what to do with my basketball operations. I'm kind of feeling the same way with all these teams. They're hiring, yes, predominant Trevor Linden. Vancouver fans love him. Brendan Shanahan, he's a big hockey name. Everybody knows him. But why wouldn't you consult a business mind if you're trying to turn around the business end of things and let them focus on that? You know, another analogy I always have is like, I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan in the NFL.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. So am I. Because
no, I wasn't apologizing to you. I was apologizing to the listeners.
Jerry Jones is an owner that has the passion. Do you know what I'm saying? And he's got the bankroll to build things. But Jerry, hire the best football minds to run your football team. And I think that, you know, if Shanahan was focused totally on hockey, that the Leafs just did a great thing. The business side, maybe he's going to hire some assistants that will handle that for him.
I'm guessing that's what's going to happen. I don't think they want to put him in a position to fail. I don't think Toronto can keep failing. I mean, I guess they can. I guess they can afford.
Well, they're rich enough to fail.
Yeah, and people are going to come to the games regardless of what they do. But you don't want to become the Cubs of hockey.
No, you don't want that. You know, and Toronto's a proud city, and they want their team to win. I'm sorry. They don't care that the owners have buckets and buckets and wheelbarrows of cash. They want to win. They want a Stanley Cup.
Real quickly, a couple other notes I want to throw at you.
Sure.
Johnny Gaudreau. Well, actually, we should point out that Union won the national championship, beating Minnesota.
Who picked
7-4.
that team?
I don't know. That wasn't
Who was
on
that guy's name that picked that team?
That wasn't on this podcast, so nobody knows. The Frozen Four to get there was phenomenal. Boston College.
His name is Doug Cannon.
Boston College played Union. They nearly came back. They were down 5-3 with 10 seconds left.
That was a phenomenal hockey game.
And then the game after that was Minnesota, North Dakota, and that had an even better ending with Minnesota scoring with less than a second left to win 2-1. The championship game was excellent as well, 7-4.
It was really good hockey.
It really was. It gives you insight to how enjoyable single elimination hockey can be.
Correct. And now the Mem Cup's around the corner.
Yeah, that's just hockey all the time right now. It's great.
I love it.
Johnny Gaudreau won the Hobey Baker Award, and then on Sunday played his first ever NHL game for the Calgary Flames, and on his first ever NHL shot, scored.
That's awesome.
And I think it is, because Calgary has been down for so long, and they finally committed to a rebuild, and it's going to take more than just this 1 year. But we talked about this last show. They played with heart down the stretch this season.
Yes, they did.
And the knock on Gaudreau is only that he's not big enough. That's the only knock on him. Everywhere he's played, he's been successful. He won a gold medal for the U.S. and the World Juniors.
I think they told that to Ray Whitney, too.
Martin St. Louis, too.
Martin St. Louis.
Nathan Gerby. There's a lot of guys.
Nathan Gerby, yeah.
So I'm kind of pulling for Gaudreau.
You young players out there, don't listen to them.
Don't listen to anybody.
If you believe in it, you can play the game, play the game.
Wow, this just turned into like an after-school special. Draft lottery is
tomorrow.
Okay. Buffalo Sabres.
By the way, this is Monday, April 14th.
Is it? No, you're right, it is. Buffalo Sabres are the odds-on favorites by virtue of their
stellar season.
Yeah. They have a 25% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. But we all know that the Edmonton Oilers, who have a 14.2% chance, actually somehow still have a better chance of getting the number 1 overall pick.
What I love about the lottery is New Jersey's in the mix.
Yeah.
And if their name gets drawn, it goes back in and we draw again. If their name gets drawn, it goes back in and we draw again.
I hope it happens like
because
7 times.
They can't have the first pick this year. They can only have the 30th pick. So their name could be drawn 40 times and it just goes right back into the bin. I love that. I love that.
So I'm just looking at some of the teams that legitimately could win. The Sabres, Panthers, Oilers, Flames all have a 10% chance or more. Then you have the Islanders, who could really use that pick. Vancouver, Carolina. Hey, look at that, Toronto. 3.5% chance of getting the number 1 overall pick. Jets, Ducks, Devils, Predators, Coyotes, and Capitals. The Capitals have a 1 in 200 chance of getting the top pick. But they still have a chance. Better chance than the Devils.
So who do you think is going to get it? You can't predict this, but it'd be fun just to say.
It can't be Edmonton again, right? It can't.
Oh, my God. Could you imagine?
I'll go with Buffalo. I'll just play the odds.
They got 25% chance. Yeah. Let's go Buff.
And I'll tell you what, the way they went about their business this year of trading away their guys that were going to be leaving at the end of the year anyway and getting more and more picks, if they get that first pick and they draft the right player, whoever it is, their rebuild is well on its way. And they've got an owner with money. They could be in a good position a couple years down the line.
Okay, before we say goodbye for this episode, what's your big moment for 13-14?
Like for the whole year?
Yep.
Across the league?
Across the league.
Wow. That was not brought up in the pre-production meeting.
No, it wasn't.
For me individually, it was, we talked about this before, it was the members of the Miracle on Ice team coming to Phoenix.
That was very cool.
At a game that we were there and got to meet them. That to me is the moment that stands out personally. For the whole season, I think that's yet to be determined in the playoffs.
Well, I'm talking regular season because the regular season's over. For me, it's the Colorado Avalanche and specifically Nathan McKinnon. I've been really, really impressed with the team. I've been impressed with the coaching staff, and I've been impressed by that young man. To come to get drafted and then go into the league right away and to do what he's doing as a rookie. I'm like, wow. And their story's not done yet.
Their story isn't done yet, and it goes back to conversations I've been having with people all week about how you have to have some really top-end young talent through the draft usually to have success, and Colorado has a ton of it. I guess my moment would be Toronto losing 8 in a row, missing out.
That hurt.
That's it for episode 36. Join us next week as we go even deeper into round 1 of the playoffs.
And we bring you hockey, and more hockey. In fact, hockey is what you can expect here on the Hockey Podcast.
That was remarkably deep. Plus, whatever else happens in the next 7 days, thanks for listening to the Hockey Podcast.